Hi, everyone. Vladimir Putin is now using rape as a tool in the war. Ukrainian women and girls bravely speaking out about being assaulted by Russian soldiers. But first, there is a question that needs to be asked about actor Johnny Depp. Why the heck is he suing his ex-wife? Today we heard opening statements in his defamation lawsuit against ex-wife Amber Heard, which we'll show you part of in a moment. He says his career is now in shambles because of her allegations. And maybe this is one area where most people can agree. His career is in shambles. The question is why? Depp and Heard married in 2015. After the marriage quickly went south, Heard accused him of multiple violent attacks against her, including physical beatings that included pulling out chunks of her hair, strangling her, and even sexual attacks. In May of 2016, she showed up to an LA courtroom with a bruised face and obtained a temporary restraining order against him. The couple settled their divorce months later, releasing a joint statement, which read in part, "Our relationship was intensely passionate and at times volatile, but always bound by love." Not anymore. In December 2018, Heard wrote an opinion piece for the Washington Post, headlined, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath." The op-ed mentioned the sexual assault she suffered in college and legislation she thought could help survivors. But not once did she mention the name Johnny Depp. Nevertheless, he filed a $50 million defamation suit against her, claiming it ruined his reputation and his career. Now, Depp's suit alleges that Heard's allegations led to his being dropped from future Pirates of the Caribbean films after he led the franchise for 15 years. Today, in a Fairfax, Virginia courtroom, Depp's legal team is claiming that this is all a big lie, that Heard at first did this to stop Depp from leaving her and then to raise her own profile.
For nearly 30 years, Mr. Depp built a reputation as one of the most talented actors in Hollywood, a respected artist whose name was associated with success at the box office. Today, his name is associated with a lie. Ms. Heard's actions were prompted by Mr. Depp's request for a divorce. He wanted out, which drove her to to make up a story that was, at first, designed to keep him.
The evidence will show that Ms. Heard painted a picture of herself as a heroic, innocent survivor of abuse by Mr. Depp, a beaten woman who finally stood up to her tormentor. The evidence will show that Ms. Heard used her allegations against Mr. Depp to raise her own profile and to advance her own career.
His legal team basically said that the op-ed led to a professional life sentence against Johnny Depp.
Mr. Depp will go to his grave knowing that whatever he does, there are people out there in this world who will always believe that he abused a woman.
Well, but to believe that, you just need to look at another lawsuit Depp filed in London in 2020. He sued the London tabloid The Sun after they called him a wife beater. The judge in that case found that there was, quote, overwhelming evidence that Depp had assaulted Heard repeatedly throughout their marriage and that she was in fear of her life. Now, you would think that might be enough for Depp, particularly because the legal standard in England is more favorable to him than the one here in the U.S. But no, he's now suing Heard here with a Virginia jury now hearing his case. Now, Heard also filed a $100 million defamation countersuit against Depp, which is also ongoing. But in this case, Heard's legal team again argued she was, in fact, a victim of a brutal physical beating and sexual abuse at the hands of Depp.
As you go through those 3 days of Australia, some pretty horrendous things happen to her. He rips off her nightgown. He has her jammed up against a bar. He has hurled bottles and bottles at her. He has dragged her across the floor on the broken bottles and the liquor. He has punched her. He has kicked her. He tells her he's going to kill her. He hates her. He's pounding at her, pounding her. And then he penetrates her with a liquor bottle.
And her attorneys argued in 2016, Depp basically admitted that the allegations were true.
In May of 2016, when she obtained the restraining order, Mr. Depp never denied the allegations. And in fact, he signed a statement that Amber hadn't made any false statements for financial gain. He signed a statement saying she hadn't made any false statements. And you'll see that in evidence in this trial. And it was only 2 years later, as his career was in free fall and her career was taking off, that he pounced, that he chose to bring this lawsuit.
I mean, this is all bananas. Heard's lawyers made clear that this isn't some Hollywood divorce, because as a legal matter in a defamation case, Depp has to prove that his ex-wife basically knew that what she wrote about him was false.
Mr. Depp will have to prove that the words Ms. Heard used were about him and that they were false. And if he can't do that, and if he can't meet the other elements of the claim, then he loses that claim. And he can't do that.
Now, considering what that London judge found and the other evidence, I don't quite get why Johnny Depp is doing this. I mean, I'm watching him sitting there in court, and it's sort of like, oh, wow, there's Johnny Depp. But he doesn't have to be there. He's choosing to be there. Joining us now is Jesse Weber, host for the Law and Crime Network, a network which I founded, as well as Jeanette Levy, also from Law and Crime, who was in the courtroom today. Good to see both of you. Appreciate it. All right, so Jeanette, you've been in the courtroom. You're listening to all the opening statements. What am I missing here about Johnny Depp that may be leading him to move forward with this lawsuit?
You know, Dan, he claims that Amber Heard, after this op-ed ran in the Washington Post, that he lost acting jobs. But her attorneys say it's not the case. But Depp's attorneys also told the jury that not once in his 58 years on this earth has any woman ever said that he raised a hand to them other than Amber Heard. He contends this was all made up, that he didn't do these things. So he apparently is convinced, despite Heard's attorneys saying that he blacked out during that 3 days in Australia. So they're saying he wouldn't be able to remember what he did anyway. So, you know, he apparently feels that she really dragged him down, not only with the restraining order, but then the op-ed. So you have to believe that he believes that this is what led to his downfall. But I'm not so sure that's the case. He obviously has a history of drug abuse and alcohol abuse.
Well, that's what I was going to ask Jesse about, which is, you know, he's sort of blaming as if this op-ed, where he isn't even mentioned by name, becomes the downfall of his entire career. And yet he had a reputation for being, at the very least, incredibly difficult on sets. And that was sort of just the beginning.
Here's the problem. He tied himself to this Washington Post op-ed. Now, here's the problem. It's really 3 statements that he has a problem with, one of which Amber Heard apparently didn't even write. So then it leaves you with these 2 statements, and they are so vague that when you talk about the definition of domestic violence, it can be physical, it can be psychological, it can be sexual. If she just shows one aspect of that, his case loses. And the problem with this, of course, is why is he doing it? He makes such a great point. So is it the money? Well, personally, I feel that his legal case is very weak. Notoriously, defamation cases are hard to prove, particularly against celebrities. She has a strong First Amendment argument, and there's a problem with the statements. But then if you think about the reputation, okay, if a jury agrees with me, I'm going to clear my name. Well, what's going to happen between now and the end of 6 weeks? We are all going to hear these allegations, and I find it kind of ironic that he wants to clear his name, but all of this is going to come out in the public, in the American public's eyes, which I don't know how many people in America followed the UK case, but now they're all going to follow this case because they're going to tune in to everything, hopefully on Law and Crime, but also on this station. And everybody's going to now get a firsthand glimpse of these accusations, and he's trying to win a court in public opinion. I just think this is going to turn on him. I don't know what he's trying to prove by doing this. I think it's going to backfire, my personal opinion. Well,
and here is Amber Heard's lawyers talking about his motivation, because remember, this is based on something she wrote in the Washington Post. This is number 7. This was in the opening statements today.
You don't see the Washington Post sitting here as a defendant in this courtroom. Depp didn't sue the Washington Post. He had no interest in doing that. He only sued Amber. He could have sued the Washington Post. They published the article. But he didn't. And he chose to bring Amber to court here in Virginia, where she has no ties, has never lived, he's never lived, where they never spent any time, because he wanted to make her life hard. He wanted to ruin her life. He wanted to destroy her.
And Jeanette, we're expecting both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard to testify in this case?
That's right, Dan. Both of their lawyers say that they will take the stand and they will tell their stories. And that obviously means that they will be subject to cross-examination. I think that, you know, a lot of people are left wondering with some of the things we heard today, which Johnny Depp has a lot of issues personally. What is his true motivation? And maybe it is that he wants to punish her. But with all of these things that will come out, you have to wonder if his reputation can ever be rehabilitated.
Is it pretty bizarre being in that courtroom and being at that courthouse?
It's a little strange. I mean, it feels odd that we're here in Virginia, but you know, it is what it is. We're here because Johnny Depp's lawyers say this is where the Washington Post is published, and this is why they filed it here. But also, at the time, the defamation laws were more favorable and were a little looser, apparently, than they are now. So it is a little bit odd. He walked in today looking very confident. He was smiling at his lawyers. He was all smiles after the opening statement. What's interesting, though, is the number of people who've shown up to support Johnny Depp. Fans from across the country have traveled here. I talked to a woman from Minnesota. She brought her 4 children with her to support Johnny Depp. I've met one person who is here from California to support Amber Heard.
Well, that's just because Johnny Depp is much more famous than Amber Heard, I think. I don't know that that's a reflection of a whole lot. But let me do this. Let me ask you both to stick around, because coming up, Johnny Depp's sister testified today. She says Amber was horrible to her brother Johnny. This trial is going to get ugly. That's next.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.